We are using bioidentical hormones to create incredible health outcomes. We're going to literally save people from ending up in hospitals and nursing homes and costing us taxpayers tons and tons and tons of money. If everybody got an HRT tomorrow, my God, we could probably reduce the national debt and healthcare spend by literally billions and trillions over the next decade or two. It's a paradigm shift, and not everybody's ready for it. And so I don't want you guys to feel afraid of HRT. I want you to feel curious about it. Hey guys, Nico Misleh here. Great to have you back here at the Nico Misleh Podcast. I've got my delicious San Pellegrino here with me. It's the blood orange flavor. So I think it's the best one. Either that or lime. I'm not sure. They're so freaking good. They're so delicious. Not sponsored, just saying. I just freaking love that stuff. What a great product. I wish I came up with it. Today, I got to be honest with you. I came in today and I was like, guys, sometimes I just don't want to talk about hormones or business. Sometimes I just want to talk about stuff that I'm interested in and how they kind of relate to HRT and business and stuff. And I got to tell you, something happened to me recently that I just thought was interesting. And I thought you might find it interesting. And it kind of maybe just goes to show the way in which I think about things a little bit. And I'm not saying that I'm special in that sense, but I just kind of, I hope this helps you get to know me maybe a little bit more. I was at a meeting with Shrell, my beautiful wife, with our financial consultant, our wealth manager, so to speak, right? Which is amazing to even think that we have someone like that now, but, 2 businesses in and, and 2 kids and a house and all that, we kind of felt like, okay, it's probably time to be grown-ups at this point and, get retirement and things like that situated. And we got a living will done and all these important things that, they're not very sexy, but they're things we have to do. Right. So anyways, I'm working with an amazing group, amazing wealth management and consulting group. They're doing amazing things for us in terms of, helping us deal with retirement stuff and taxes and, all kinds of stuff with the business. It's just been really nice. But I personally fell captive to something called Bitcoin. And I know probably a lot of you are like rolling your eyes in the back of your head and like, oh no. I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin. Like I'm going to sell you on Bitcoin. I'm not. But when I get into subjects and ideas and concepts, if you know how I work with hormones, like I get really, really deeply interested and obsessive over it. And, for so many years, my mom and dad, much like probably a lot of your moms and dads out there, they told me, save your money, Nico, save it. Save as much as you can kind of thing. By the way, not like the worst advice ever at all. But they told me to save my money and do all this stuff. And I got to be honest with you, especially over the last 10 years, especially since like COVID, what I started noticing was like, man, stuff is getting really expensive. like buying a home is unbelievably challenging, especially for, God, I feel bad for these. Like, I'm 34 or 30, I just turned 35. I think about my younger brother who's 10 years younger than me, in the early 20s. Like it is such a beast. It's such a burden to be able to do something like that. And talk about, an insurmountable feat, I think, for a lot of people these days to own a home, let alone rent in a halfway decent area. And it got me thinking, why did things become so expensive? Like, why is everything so expensive? Why is the housing market like this? Like, why are groceries more expensive? We talk about inflation, like, what the hell does that mean? And all this stuff. And, I started looking into like, what is money? What actually is this? Like, I work so hard. We all work so hard to get a lot of it to make our lives better. But what really is it at the end of the day? Is it valuable in any way, shape, or form? Is it losing value? Is it gaining value? I mean, we happen to be in the most amazing place in the universe, I think, which is the United States of America, where I am fortunate to have a home and have a great job and all these different things. But, what I started realizing was it seems like the dollar is not that healthy. And it kind of feels like yeah, maybe this is a really big stretch, but I think in this way, like it kind of made me think of the average population in the United States, which is this weird idea that, somehow everybody's normal, right? Your labs are normal. Everything's fine. You're just this or that or the other. And yet when we look at the numbers and the data, and when I look at human beings walking around, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't think anybody's normal. I don't even know what that means anymore. Now I use the word optimal because normal, I think, should be, I think it should mostly mean optimal. Like you're in good health. You're normal. Everything's okay, right? I'm not saying you're perfect. I'm just saying things are good. And I don't see that. And I feel like there's so many areas in life which are that way, unfortunately, right? Our food is a great example, right? Like, hey, this is totally healthy. GMO, we spray it to death with glyphosate and all these nasty chemicals. Totally safe, totally fine. Eat up. I'm like, well, if that was true, then why are we so sick? Like, what was going on there? This food is super, super cheap in one sense, right? That's like nothing to buy a loaf of bread these days, but is it good for you? Does it have any real nutrients? And so all of a sudden I start thinking, is money like that? Is the US dollar, our currency, is it kind of like that where we're told it's fine and everything's okay, but in reality, it doesn't feel like that? My grandfather bought his first house for $6,000 in the 1950s, maybe 60s, early 60s, $6,000. That same house is worth about $300,000 today. And look, I understand there's value to it and things go up in price, but like that, there's something really weird there. And my parents own that house. My dad lives in the house he grew up in. If he went and sold that house today, he could barely afford to buy another home, right? Isn't that crazy? So all of a sudden I got to thinking about that. And so anyways, it brought me into this universe of what other things are out there that seem to be healthier than the dollar, that seems to maybe perform better than it. It's a good place where I can store my energy, my value into something, right? Or I work so hard for it. Just like, for example, I work so hard to stay healthy, right? I drink my San Pellegrinos, I, exercise, I try to eat organic fruits and vegetables and healthy meats and all that amazing stuff. I'm super lucky to be able to do that. But it's because I need to be able to maintain and appreciate my greatest asset, which is my living human body, right? I hope it's kind of a depreciating asset, I think, but like if I can keep it as best I can, I will. And that's my ethos with everything in life, right? Like if I'm going to buy something, I want it to last for a long time. If I'm going to store my hard-earned income somewhere, I want it to grow and be healthy and not succumb to any godforsaken thing. And I know there's risks in everything, but so anyways, I'm looking through stuff and, I'm recognizing like gold. That's really interesting. Gold seems to be a great store of value. In fact, I don't know if any of you nerds are like me and you look at gold price, but gold pricing is like crazy right now. It's like, it just hit like $4,500 an ounce or something like that. And, I know my dad and grandfather, they would buy gold back in the day for like a few $100. So it's appreciated massively. And why is that? Well, because it's scarce. It's finite. There's not tons of gold everywhere, but guess what? Dollars, they're not scarce or finite. They just get printed all day long. And we call that inflation, right? It just dilutes everything. And I see that again in our healthcare system, right? We dilute and band-aid things. We're always just after that super quick fix. If you're depressed, take an antidepressant. If that makes you have low libido, well, then we'll give you some Wellbutrin. If the Wellbutrin does this, we'll do that, right? It's just always one thing after another, after another, after another. That's a Band-Aid approach because we know at the end of the day, that person is just getting more and more and more unhealthy. And I kind of feel like that's how our money is. And so gold seemed to make a lot of sense. The difficult thing with gold is really hard to move, right? And even buy okay, so let's just imagine Nico's a multi-bazillionaire. What am I going to do? Buy a mine full of gold? How am I going to sell it? How am I going to transport it? What if someone in France wants to buy it? Do I have to pay $100,000 to ship it across the ocean in what, a plane or a boat? And then when it gets there, am I going to have to pay customs? And right, like it just becomes really impractical in a lot of ways. I'm not saying like, by the way, having gold is a bad idea. Like I think it probably is a really good idea. I'm just saying you can understand in this current era that feels a little clunky, right? So then comes this idea of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, right? Which is just a totally, it's new in the sense that it's a paradigm shift. And I think that's what's really difficult. It was really difficult for me to wrap my head around it. I'm one of those dorks. My friends are dorks. So I've known about Bitcoin since its inception. I really have. Like I have friends who arguably, got into Bitcoin really, really early on just because they're nerds and they hang out on Twitter and, they're in the tech industry. And I couldn't wrap my head around it at all. I mean, I was like, this is so stupid. Like, what a dumb thing. That's literally, I mean, I'm literally telling you what I felt about it. This is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It is not a real thing. Like you can't feel it. You can't see it. You can't smell it. Ironically, the US dollar, by the way, I mean, technically, yes, are there paper bills? Yeah, but it's not based on anything. Not really. Right. So again, I started thinking, oh my God, I feel like this is the same way, some of us healthcare providers feel about HRT when we first hear about it. That stuff's the devil. It's terrible for you. It's going to cause cancer. It's going to make you have a stroke and a heart attack, right? And we have all these cognitive biases around that because we've been told forever that this is a bad idea by very, very smart people, by the way, like really smart people I respect and love. Physicians, nurse practitioners, I don't care what they were, who they were. They told me these things and I believed them. Maybe at some point the literature did say that. I'm not disparaging that, but it doesn't now. And so now I feel like when I talk about HRT, I feel like, I wonder if this feels like some of the people who feel the same way about something like Bitcoin, which just feels probably hokey and stupid and dumb and what a waste of time. And why would you ever invest your money in something like that? Why not put it in the stock market or bonds or just keep it in your bank account and let it grow? But guess what? It's not, those things aren't really all that healthy anymore. Not in the way they used to be, right? They did used to maybe be healthy, but that's when the dollar was backed by gold. And we don't need to get in the history of it, but like, it's not healthy anymore. It's going in a direction that is not great. And we have to do something about it. And there has to be an alternative solution. And the one thing I know that you should never do is discount human beings. Us. We are so good at like, man, when our backs are up against the wall, something magical is going to drop. I love it. I look forward to it, even though it can be a really tumultuous time. I look forward to that. Because the greatest things in our lives have happened when maybe one person even said, you know what? I don't think this is true. I don't think that the sun revolves around the earth. And it's because I've done some math and it doesn't appear to be true. And that was heresy forever. Forever. I mean, if you said that out loud, you were literally thrown in jail. Right? I mean, there were so many things in our lives over the hundreds and thousands of years of human beings being on this earth that, in fact, it tends to be that when I hear things like that, it's almost like my reaction rather than nowadays, it didn't used to be that way, but nowadays my reaction is my ears perk up a little bit. When I just hear something a little bit different, and it doesn't mean I'm like, oh, I'm 110% in, right? I mean, HRT, it took me a little minute to get over this cognitive bias that I had around it and fear, literal fear that I had around it. Because once I looked at the data, once I really understood hormones at a deeper level, I thought this is the most beautiful, amazing thing in the world. This is a paradigm shift. We are using bioidentical hormones, our own body's immaculate messaging system, to create incredible health outcomes unbelievable health outcomes. We're going to literally save people from ending up in hospitals and nursing homes and costing us taxpayers tons and tons and tons of money, right? Literally, like if everybody got an HRT tomorrow, my God, we could probably reduce the national debt and healthcare spend by literally billions and trillions over the next decade or two. I'm totally convinced by that. It's a paradigm shift, and not everybody's ready for it. And by the way, this paradigm shift is old. My mentors, God love them, they were looking at this stuff back in the 90s and trying to make some moves with it. And they were, I mean, you want to talk about people who were just absolutely annihilated for their beliefs and their values around hormone replacement therapy for men and women. I mean, those guys were treated like literal crackpots, like they were the devil. They would get written up to the board. And my poor mentor, I swear, I feel sorry for him because he was so beyond his, he was a Renaissance man in a lot of ways. He did some things that were quirky and maybe I didn't agree with, but there were so many things he was looking at: ozone, HRT, methylene blue. I mean, this guy knew this stuff 20 years ago and was talking about it. And people they were so awful to him. His colleagues especially, right? And I felt bad because he was a physician, and I think they especially can be really hard on each other. But I mean, he was just really put to shame over that, over just having slightly different ideas and opinions based on actual literature, by the way. And so my heart goes out to people like that because I actually have it a lot easier now. I mean, sure, are there people out there who think I'm probably a total quackpot? Absolutely. But man, since COVID, that has totally changed. I mean, people like woke up and were like, you know what? I'm interested in not dying from things like COVID and being overweight anymore. Like, I'm very interested in that. And it doesn't seem like my doctor or my nurse practitioner or whoever is really helping me with that in the modern medical conventional insurance care model. I'm tired of it. And again, I started kind of feeling a little bit like that with money. Like I'm trying my best to do all these things, and it kind of feels like I'm losing. And like a lot of us are losing. I know so many of you who work your freaking tails off, and it kind of feels, I don't want to say pointless, but you know what I mean? Like, where do we store money, which is just Michael Saylor says this, who's amazing, by the way. If you ever listen or listen to a podcast by Michael Saylor, read one of his books, he's really brilliant. And he was one of those guys who thought Bitcoin was like so stupid, and now he's like one of the biggest Bitcoin advocates in the world. But he explains it so eloquently. He talks about money as like it's a store of energy. I know that sounds kind of goofy, but it really is. It's a store of energy. I work my butt off. I get this thing that my energy was put into, which I can then transfer that energy to things that I want to purchase, buy, sell, whatever. And if I get $100 worth of energy and it sits somewhere, and over time it loses its value, loses energy, because that's what energy does, right? There's this thing called entropy. It's like thermodynamics, right? Energy slowly escapes and leaves and leaks, right? So we have to find ways to like hold on to that energy. If you have a battery, right? If you have a cell phone like me and you charge it, and then you charge it to full power, you don't touch it, you just leave it on your shelf for a week or two. You go pick that thing up, it's going to be dead in a week or two, and you didn't even use it. Energy escapes, it leaves. And in a weird way, that's how money kind of works these days. It's a very leaky system. With inflation, it's like we just keep printing dollar bills and we keep diluting everything. And at the end of the day, the dollars that we hold on to in 10 years, they're not the same. I have $100 now in a bank account. In 10 years' time, it might feel, I still have $100, by the way, but it is going to feel like $10 when I go to buy something that's worth 3 times as much now because I waited 10 years. Does that make sense? And I think the same thing is true within the HRT world, right? I can take hormones and preserve my energy. I can stop the energy from leaking. I can restore my mitochondria. Now, can I make them 110% better like I was in my 20s? No, not exactly. It's not anti-aging in the sense that like I'm literally aging backwards and I'm never going to die. Maybe someday, I don't know. But as of right now, that's not true. But what is true is, can I slow the escape of energy down? Can I keep as much energy that I produce and use it? I also want to have fun with it, right? It's no fun to just keep energy stored up for no reason. But when I tap into that energy store, can I access most of it, all of it? Or is it like, oh shit, I tapped in and now there's only 20% left. I guess I'm going to have a terrible workout. Well, that's how I feel about money. And so I'm sitting in this, beautiful conference room, and I'm sitting next to my beautiful wife. We're talking about money and what we do with it. And I asked, because I'd been researching a lot about money, I was really just super curious about it. And I was starting to make all these comparisons in my head. And I like to ask questions. And like I said, great question, right? And there's no such thing as a dumb question. But I asked this financial advisor, I said, hey, like, what do you think about something like Bitcoin? And the tension in that room was so palpable. It was like, and literally, I remember after that meeting telling Sherelle, it felt like I asked a primary care provider how they felt about TRT. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you've ever encountered that, but a lot of my patients even will tell me that, like, dude, I asked my primary care about TRT and like, yikes, that did not go well. They have this guttural reaction to things that are outside of their realm and world and universe, and is probably starting to invade their universe, and they're trying to like turn a blind eye to it, or I don't know what it is, right? They're just unwilling to really look at it in a slightly charitable light, right? Because it could be wrong. Could be, maybe it's stupid. Maybe it's nothing. There are tons of things that come and go, right? But the United States of America's putting interest into Bitcoin. And, Fortune 500 companies like BlackRock are, buying Bitcoin. Like, it's not like it was in 2015. It's like, hey, this is the thing, and it's here to stay. Now, there might be some regulations around it that need to change, sure, but like, if anything, it seems to be very positive around it. And I think we've seen the same thing with HRT, right? Has it radically changed since the 90s? Yeah, for sure. It's much easier to talk about it these days, number one. Number two, it's much more widely available and accepted. Number three, even the FDA and a lot of other three-letter agencies are actually paying attention to it and giving some credit to it, taking away black label warnings and stuff, right? We've seen that this year in 2025. So the adoption is maybe slow, but it's steady and it's growing. And in fact, I would argue that HRT is exponentially growing. And we can see that just from, the number of dollar bills being spent on HRT. It's a thriving and growing industry. The wellness industry at large, not just HRT, the wellness industry. I think that's awesome. And I think it's similar to Bitcoin in a lot of ways. But boy, that room just got icy when I mentioned it. And the way he spoke about Bitcoin reminded me literally of the way a primary care, I'm not just picking out primary care providers, a conventional medicine provider would talk about HRT, which was kind of like, yeah, it's pretty stupid. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't, but that he compared it to putting money into the lottery. If you want to just lose all your money, yeah, it's a great way. It's a great thing to do, kind of thing. It was very dismissive, not helpful, which was what I was looking for. I wasn't actually looking for him to necessarily agree with me and be like, yeah, put every single dollar into Bitcoin. I actually knew he wasn't going to say that. But again, I one of the things I can't stand is when people and I didn't personally feel belittled, but just it felt very flippant and like, yeah, what a dumb idea. It's so stupid. Might as well just play the lottery, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't helpful. It wasn't like, hey, let me give you my 2 cents on the whole thing. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but like, this is kind of the way I see it. It didn't really feel like that. It felt like I was, it felt like somehow I had stepped on his toes a little bit. And I get that, right? Because honestly, like, let's just say magically Bitcoin takes over the universe. That guy's kind of out of a job, right? And I get that. Whenever there are these paradigm shifts, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. Because God forbid we could lose our jobs, or not make the same type of money we were making, or like what do I say to all the people who trusted me? Like, hey, guess what? But I think that's exactly it. I think that, and I've been, by the way, I'm like totally at fault for these same things too. I've said things like he's said, so I'm literally not faulting him. But I think that it doesn't make sense to take on this identity of, I am a whatever medical expert and I say no to HRT, and I will always say no, even if it's the right thing to do, because I don't want to be wrong, or I don't want to feel stupid. My patients are really not interested in that. I can tell you that right now. I have been wrong many, many, many times, and I will continue to be wrong about things. We're just human beings. We don't own these ideas. I don't own HRT or TRT. Okay. If something comes out 10 years from now that's way better, I hope I can be the person who says, hey guys, I don't even think you're saying you're wrong is necessary. I think it's just, hey, you know what? This idea is better and I'm pivoting, and I want you to pivot with me because I want to make your life better. That's it. Okay. Like just go with what makes the most sense for your people and brings the most value. And so anyways, what I'm getting at here is, I think there are a lot of things in our lives right now. I think AI and what's going to happen with that, and Bitcoin and the dollar, and like are things okay there? And I think these paradigm shifts, HRT in medicine, like wellness medicine and sick care medicine, right? There are these big things that are finally starting to come to light more and more and more. And it's starting to become more and more obvious that something is wrong. Something's really wrong with this, even though we've been told it's been fine for a long time and don't worry about it. Something's wrong. And these things that are coming about, I don't think they're the devil necessarily. I don't think they're the scourge of humanity. Just like I don't think the internet necessarily was. I think it's brought about a lot of really amazing things. The ability for me to just talk to you right now is and thanks to all of that, right? And I love that because I love connecting with you. And that brings me a lot of meaning and joy. And I hope it does to you too. So I think going in with fear or discomfort or pushing and projecting that stuff on other people is not the right approach. I'm not saying you have to feel comfortable or like know everything about Bitcoin or HRT or any of these things for that matter. I'm more interested in, hey, can I expose you to something that's a little different? And I think it's gaining some traction. And I think maybe you should look into that. Just like HRT. Because again, I was talking about that a long time ago too. And I got a lot of flack for it. And then after COVID, it kind of shifted in a beautiful way, in a way that I could have never expected or anticipated. Functional medicine at large did. And so I think we're going to see things like that occur. And I just want you to be, I think the term open-minded gets tossed around a lot these days. And I don't know it carries as much weight as it should. And I'm not even sure it's the right word, but I think it makes the most sense. Like, be open-minded to these things. It doesn't mean you have to go and marry it. Doesn't mean you have to pledge your allegiance to it or literally drop every dollar into it. But it might mean that you should expose yourself to that new idea. And maybe it's an idea worth really listening to and looking into. And what do other people have to say about that? And just trusting ourselves, like, what does that feel like inside my heart and soul right now? Like, do I feel like God saying, hey, this is maybe a really good idea? Or do I feel like the total opposite? I think there's a lot to that. But I'll tell you, again, I've had guttural reactions to things in the past that I now would say, oh my gosh, I was just way off on that. Like I'm so thankful that thing became a thing and didn't go away. And I'm so thankful that I've come around to looking at it in a very positive light. To be honest, sparkling water, like San Pellegrino, didn't really love it when I first tried it. I freaking love it now, right? I think it's awesome. And it can be simple like that, right? Try something new and see if it fits. And, does it make sense to your life? And is this helpful for you and your people and your loved ones? And honestly, I think Bitcoin is one of those things that's like, you know what? This is really interesting. It just reminds me a lot of HRT. And maybe it falls flat on its face. I don't know. I'm not advising you to dump all your money into it at all, by the way. I certainly haven't done that with mine. But it is something that I'm like, whenever I hear that counter argument or narrative or whatever we want to call it, whenever I sense this paradigm shift into this new era, this new age, like the internet, and I was a little too young to really experience that, right, as an adult. But man, there was a lot of powerful things that happened with that. And I think this new paradigm we're moving into is just as powerful and probably even more exciting. And so I don't want you guys to feel afraid of HRT. I really don't. I want you to feel curious about it. For those of you who are like, I haven't touched it yet. I still don't know, Nico. I haven't even thought about purchasing the course. I'm just listening to you on these podcasts, and maybe I'm trying to drum up the courage or ask some people about it. That's amazing. Don't feel bad about that. Please don't feel bad about that. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here. I really am. And I hope maybe some of these comparisons are even helpful, because at the end of the day, selfishly, of course, I'm like, I really want you to get in on this. I really want you to get in on this because I think you're going to love it. I think it's going to make such a big difference in your life. And I think you'll look back and think, God, I wish I would have done that 10 years ago, because I know I felt that way. I really did. And so again, I can appreciate when I probably come off as obviously I'm very biased. I have an HRT course and I love HRT. I'm obsessed about it. But I love sharing that with other people because I want them to want that too, because I've seen the power and the value of it play out in patients' lives, change their whole, physicality and spirituality and emotional relationships that they have with their spouses and children and friends. It's so powerful. It's one of those things. It's like the internet. I want everybody to have access to this stuff. It's amazing. It's going to open your world up. It's going to allow you to store and maintain energy more simply and readily. And that's what I talk about in the course. That aspect is so important. Metabolism and being pro-metabolic and being pro-energy. Because everything in our lives kind of revolve around that, right? Energy is the currency of life. And money is literally a currency. So they have that relationship. I think that energy inside our bodies is the currency of our human organism, clearly, because we're literally living things. And I think if we can maintain and take care of that, I think life is much more rich and beautiful on the other end. So guys, I know this was a different podcast. I appreciate you letting me just talk about some of the things that I've encountered. But again, I hope this was helpful and I hope it was interesting. And I hope it just opens things up a little bit more for you guys and exposes you to some really interesting and fascinating new ideas that I think are coming, and they're here, I think, already. And I think they're just going to get more and more powerful. And much like psychedelics and mental health, when I talked about that, it's not that we can do anything about that. Literally, it's federally illegal, so to speak. But I think that day is going to come. And I just want you to be exposed to this idea that maybe these things are really powerful and important. And if someday it crawls into your little corner of the universe, you're not going to be totally ignorant about it. And maybe you're actually going to be able to do something with it. I think that's really exciting. All right, guys, I'm going to go finish my Sampel. Have a great rest of your day. By the way, don't forget, I have a daily email. Please check it out. It's amazing. It's on the show notes. If you link down below, I write it every single day, Monday through Friday. Just me, no ChatGPT ever. It's just me. We have an amazing Facebook group. If you log into Facebook and type in Nico's HRT University, free Facebook group. You can hang out there, meet a ton of new people. A lot of our previous colleagues who've taken the course are in there. So it's a great way to, hey, just ask questions about it. And then don't forget our website, hrtuniversity.com. That is where you will find the master course and all the great things that we have going on inside the world of HRTU. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you at the next episode.